What's up everybody, my name's Brandon and this is my vlog for This Is How You Lose Here by Diaz. Alright, let's get into it. I wanted to talk about kind of the underlying tones of why the main character is the way he is. And the author gives a good glimpse of that in the chapter in Virto, which means winter. And this was my favorite chapter because you got to see some of the things that have influenced the way that his life turned out. In this chapter, his father has just moved him over to the U.S. and it's kind of a culture shock. They don't know a lot of English, and they get put in this apartment. And one of his father's main rules is you can't go outside because it's too cold. Is what he tells them. But for the first time they're seeing snow and snowy landscape, and you want to go out, your kids, you want to go out and play, and you want to go outside, and it's hard being cooped up in one place for a long time. And the father had a lot of control issues, and Diaz kind of talks about this a lot, especially he spends a lot of time talking about how he couldn't tie his shoe. And I think he wanted to showcase that because even though it's kind of a trivial issue, for a kid not to know how to tie his shoe, the father wanted everything the way he wanted it. I think that was an important thing for the author to point out. He wanted his family to act the way that he wanted them to. And you can kind of see this because their mother kind of does everything the father says and lets him get away with all this, and a kind of abusive way that he treats his children. And when you get more into the chapter, you find out that the boys would accompany the father to meet his women on the side. That's kind of an influence for why they can't be faithful to their partners later on in life. And just the way that the father would talk to them and make sure, make them kind of act the way that he wanted. I like this chapter, and I like the way he put it kind of towards the end, because in this book it's a collection of short stories and they're not exactly in order. But you get to see a lot of the characters in the beginning and the mistakes made and the infidelity. You get to see that first, and then he goes in later on and says, here's my home life growing up with my father. So you kind of get to see why he put it in where he put it in, because he wanted to showcase why they turned out the way they were. And without having a good role model to grow up with, you're going to model the behavior of your father or your mother. You're going to basically take all those tendencies and kind of apply them to your life, and chances are you're going to end up something like his father was. So I really enjoyed this chapter, and it was good to see kind of what led to the way that these characters act. Because if you read in the book, both of the brothers have kind of the same problems with infidelity, and so it was interesting to see that they were both influenced by their father, and probably why that was my favorite chapter. So I'm going to leave it at that, and you guys have a good night.